Welcome.
Hi, BA.
Hey, Mackenzie.
This music is new to me. I'm like taking it in.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it. How's everyone doing tonight? Feel free to say hello in the chat and introduce yourself. You can share as we start here. Share what you're hoping to accomplish tonight in learning about fracking and wastewater and lead and PFAS. What's new with you, Mackenzie?
Oh, lots of election season business, and yeah, that's mostly it. What's new with you?
Oh my gosh, it's been very busy lately. We've been getting up early in the morning a lot with our flock fishing. That's where we call into C-SPAN for folks in the audience who haven't been following it. And so, like, we've been calling into C-SPAN and asking questions and sometimes being challenging, and it's been a lot of fun. I've been learning a lot from it, actually.
Yeah, I've been following it from the outside. I am not a morning person at this current moment in my life, but I hope that I can join in soon because it sounds exciting, and like it's always so fun when I hear y'all's voices on the little videos that you're watching afterwards. So
Yeah, it's very neat. Like when you do this kind of work, you start seeing you start learning what actually connects with people when you make those calls, and so we'll explore some of that tonight. For the folks who are coming here, welcome. Feel free to share in the chat what brings you here. Feel free to say hi. I'm BA, and I'm here with Mackenzie, and we're going to be talking about fracking, lead, and PFAS tonight.
Yeah, lots of fun chemicals. That's
Yeah.
what you spend time around me. Lots of fun chemicals and fun being sarcastic. No, it's interesting we're talking about lead because I've been like on this lichen kick recently. And fun fact for everybody in the audience, apparently lichen can like bind heavy metals out of the air. And they can use it as like a metric of, environmental quality, because they live for so long. You can kind of like see how things change over time and stuff. It's interesting.
Wow, that's really oh, Dash says hello. Hi Dash, welcome. Nice to see you. Yeah, that's interesting with lichen. So let me just, for folks, I wonder if a lot of people, I actually don't know much about lichens, so I wanted to just share a little bit here. What are you noticing here?
I don't think you're sharing your screen if you're trying to.
Oh, really?
Nope.
Oh. Oh, you know what? I see. There.
I think it's so pretty. That's like why I've been interested in it recently. Like I want to do some art. Like an art.
It is profoundly beautiful. Look at this. So lichen is a type. So it says. So I'm noticing. I'm just going to read some of this out loud. If you thought lichen was a type of fungus, you would be partially right. You would also be partially right if you thought it was a plant, or if you assumed it was entirely its own category. Lichens are two organisms living together as one, also known as a composite organism. In most lichen, the partnership is a fungus and one or more algae working together. However, the secondary partner can also be a cyanobacteria. The second partner is called a photobiont, and its purpose is to provide sugars to the fungal partner.
Some good old symbiosis.
Wow.
Some symbiosis.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
Isn't it really cool?
Did you Freeman Dyson has a book about parasites and symbiosis.
Yeah, I think that symbiosis is like such a profound concept, honestly. I don't know. I like to find like the connections between like poetry and science and stuff, and like sometimes things just make sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's in this piece, Origins of Life, and it's very fascinating that to speculate that it's possible that like oh wait, I'm here. I'll show you. This is the book I'm talking about, Origins of Life, and he proposes in that like replication in DNA came at the same time as like a very symbiotic reproduction as well. Like that there's like a relationship between them. It's very interesting. But anyhow, so it's really exciting to see symbiosis here.
I'm not sure why it's coming up for me in Spanish, but that's fine.
What came for you in Spanish?
The name of the book I was, searching.
Oh, okay. I see. Yeah.
Came up as Los Orígenes de la Vida.
Oh, cool.
Which is cool because I've been trying to practice my Spanish recently too.
Well, that's really convenient.
Coincidence. Yeah, what do people want to learn? Do we want to learn more about lichen? I've been, like I said, really on a lichen kick, so we can go down the lichen.
Yeah.
Hole. But yeah, I know for me, I'm hoping to learn some more about fracking chemicals and the fracking chemicals that are considered part of the PFAS group, or forever chemicals, if you've heard of them in the news at all. In some ways we might be able to regulate fracking chemicals with the new restrictions that are coming into place on PFAS. PFAS is perfluoroalkyl substances. People are not familiar with that term, but
I didn't realize that was what it stands for.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat on Twitch at least.
Yeah, and previously we were looking at this stuff from Senator Muth and with the Public Herald. Per or polyalkyl substances. Alkyl. Excuse me.
Oh, you're fine.
Per or polyalkyl substances.
Oh, I forgot the fluoro. Shit.
Oh. Fluoroalkyl.
Yeah, so they are like carbon molecules with lots of fluorine atoms on them, essentially.
Huh.
But I'm curious if anybody else likes the idea of diving into the PFAS. What are you hoping to learn tonight, BA?
Yeah, I like the idea of diving into the PFAS, and I think it would be cool tonight to share some of the clips from C-SPAN too, around that. But I think a lot of that's profound. But for me, that would be the big thing, is exploring that pathway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I really liked the episode that we're going to look at in the callers. That there were definitely some really interesting callers. Like I think it's so important people bring their own personal stories with water quality into the picture, because like it helps even like scientists that haven't considered things, or like avenues of research or avenues of potential exposure. Like it's really important to hear about people's different experiences, and like how they drink water, how they eat food. Like people's exposure can be really different based on their habits. So
yeah, it was nice that so many people could call in. And so you had all these different people calling in from all these different places.
mm-hmm.
And I felt like the show was more interesting for that respect.
Yeah.
In that, like, people could bring up their own personal issues.
Mm-hmm.
And you got a sense of like, okay, well, this is what's happening with this person, this is happening with this person, and okay, that's what that's about.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool to see people, so passionate about water quality, and to have her respond, like, I guess, so, like, humanly, I think. Humanly. Is that the right word? I don't know. But, like, to people's concerns, because, being scared about whether your water is safe or not is, like, a really, really deep thing sometimes. So,
I mean, it's very universal.
yeah.
Like, I know I'm afraid of my water quality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it bothers me. It alarms me. I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people have recovered since Flint. Like, a lot of people had a trust that was inherent that they no longer have.
Yeah, I think I may be a little bit too trusting, because I sort of give up on trying to understand things sometimes, which is funny. But no, I like it can be really overwhelming to be concerned about chemical exposure. And like as a chemist, you kind of have to like give up at some point. But it shouldn't have to be that way. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's at least
Mm-hmm.
like, and maybe we can do better.
Yeah, we definitely can do better.
I see Tim's in the audience. He says, "Good evening, water warriors." Good evening, Tim.
Like that title.
Yeah, welcome. Feel free to come on if you want to and say hi. Let us know if you want to come on. Yeah, so should we take a look at let's take a look at our agreements now a little bit. So just want to ask folks again, as you come in here, what brings us here? Mackenzie, I heard you say before, talking about PFAS and talking about some of the topics that were on C-SPAN, and I said something pretty similar too. Does anybody else have stuff that you're interested in for tonight? As we go tonight, we want to make sure that we give every idea its fair hearing. So if there's something if you have an idea that you want to share while we're going, we want to learn about different things that different people are interested in. And so we want to give every idea its fair hearing.
Yeah. I would love some good questions, some sciencey questions.
Tim says, uncovering the mysteries of water quality or lack thereof. And then some folks are going to come here and they're going to want to learn. And some folks, we're going to want to debate. And if you want to learn about something, it's okay to just want to learn about it. We're going to assume that's kind of the default. But like, if you want to debate, tell us you want to debate. What do you notice, Mackenzie, as we're talking about this?
Yeah, I want to debate at some point. There's a lot of information and like I sometimes there's too much information and you just want to say, this isn't right. Like people should not be scared about their water quality and like we shouldn't allow like product performance and all of these like considerations about um like how do we keep improving things uh like technologically, and then we create these problems of not being cautious enough or not thinking through um what we're putting out into the world in general. It's kind of how I look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, like we don't look at what we're putting out into the world, and then we contaminate the world dangerously.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think that yeah, a lot. I think most of it comes down to just this feeling that like things aren't. We don't know things are bad, so it's okay to continue using them. But like, I think we should know for certain whether something is bad before we put it into the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard the other day on, I think it was with Natalie Exum, talking about how in Europe the standard is that um like here in the United States the standard is let's try it out and see what happens. And in
Mhm.
Europe the standard is more along the lines of let's make sure it's safe and then let's put it in.
Yeah, let's try it out and see what happens is very much the mentality. That's like better way of saying it than what I've been trying to say. Kind of losing my words, but yeah, like with PFAS too. I was listening to some European outdoors companies talking about their process of trying to get PFAS out of, or forever chemicals, trying to get them out of their products because, like for outdoors companies, performance is like really important and they want their products to last. And that's part of sustainability also is making sure things last. And, like the intention behind forever chemicals was a good intention, like trying to make things that don't degrade and make better quality stuff. Like that's I think a goal a lot of environmentalists have, but there's this balance of like making stuff better, but then also making sure that we're not producing things that can't be recycled back into like an ecosystem or things that are persistent in the environment, which is like a whole class of pollutants. So
It's yeah, there's like, so I'm hearing you talk about how things like and I think of Gore-Tex, right? Like
mm-hmm.
how that like used to be such seen as like such a visionary company, and now we're finding out, oh wait, maybe this wasn't such a great idea.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't even think they're the worst company, but it's interesting to see all these things that we thought were great ideas, and now we're finding out they're dangerous actually.
Yeah, it's interesting as a scientist too, because like I have all these people around me that are saying, like, oh, there's like these things that perform so well and they're like miracle materials and things, but it's like, what criteria are you assessing that on? Is it like, it's just like the easiest chemical fix? Because like sometimes the easiest chemical fix isn't necessarily what's best in terms of, overall sustainability. But there's lots of factors to consider, like as far as emissions and cost and stuff. Like sometimes things will achieve certain goals but not achieve other goals. And like what really bothers me is that the like number one goal is always improving product quality and decreasing costs, and like the other considerations don't seem to matter as much. Like if the product isn't performing well, we're like, we know that if we keep continuing down this line, like eventually it's going to harm the business even to um, use things that are going to cause harm to workers or to the consumers and the environment, and we'll eventually face regulation, hopefully, if our government does its job. um, but yeah, we can go on and on. We should start doing some content.
Yeah. So just as we go on, Tim says a little remark here. Tim says, why does technical innovation, improvements, and efficiency seem to go to keeping up with growth, aka return on investment required by the capitalist economic system, when those ROIs could not survive in a healthy ecological economy, which puts a value on social and ecological risks and negatives such as poverty? Excuse me. Negatives such as poverty and pollution in all of its forms, water, air, soil, landfills, etc.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about like the roots of this concept of like technological innovation, and like I think there are a lot of really good things within it. Like, I mean, there are so many innovations that have like genuinely made our lives better and saved lives, but then there's also like this really dark side of technological innovation that like doesn't really seem to help anybody, but people are still like upholding as some sort of like religion. I don't know how to
Yeah,
make sense
well,
of it
and
really.
and then like sometimes people are brutalized by it too, right?
Mhm.
That you have like some people who get the worst end of the technological boom, and some people who get the benefits of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it's a challenge. I don't think it's all bad, but also we have to rethink things and we have to find ways to flow in the future.
Yeah, like I think it comes down to changing systems, and like it's not clear to me exactly how the system should change at this moment. Like I have some ideas, but I think that like how to make sure that science is still doing what science is supposed to do, and like allowing for creativity and innovation, and like finding things that do really increase, I don't like the performance, I guess, or efficiency. Like efficiency is good in a lot of cases. It's
Performance,
just like,
efficiency, or quality of life.
yeah, quality of life.
Yeah. Well, so just now, just moving through these agreements finally. Uh, Also, these are different things that folks can use here tonight. I just wanted to put this kind of list out. Like, does anyone notice anything that's a useful question here that you think you might want to ask sometime? Like, I've been thinking a lot about the question, what alternatives are there?
That's the one I was going to choose too.
Oh, darn. Oh, well, then you talk about it. You talk about it. Go for it.
Well, I've been talking enough, but I think it's really important for this topic, for fracking, for a lot of topics, but like especially for this, because like you can think of it really literally, like as what like chemical alternatives are there, or like we've been saying, like what alternatives are there in terms of like the system of doing things.
Yeah, like for instance, an alternative to the prevailing system that's destroying our people.
Hmm.
So, okay. So now let's take a look now. And then of course, finally, we should make sure everyone gets home safely and justly too. So now, what do we want to say about this?
Yeah, I haven't actually read the PDF yet, but I really don't know very much about it, so I'm excited to explore it with people. But Physicians for Social Responsibility has put together this PDF talking about the use of PFAS, chemicals, perfluoroalkyl substances, whatever you want to call them, in West Virginia fracking wells. And yeah, I know very little about it, but like I'm interested to see why they're using them. Like, what's the purpose? Are they getting into groundwater, or like? There's just lots of questions related to it, and it's really unfortunate too that it's happening in West Virginia, where like that was the beginning of this whole discovery.
Now, is this the fracking? I see there's like on their website here. I see there's one that's done at the end of last year.
Physicians for Social Responsibility's website.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up.
Can share what I'm.
Oh wait, is this the fracking compendium? No, never mind. Yeah.
This is the one that I'm thinking of. If you want to put that up there.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is the table of contents here.
Yeah, what do folks notice here?
Is this big enough? I can make it.
Maybe make it a little bit larger. Yeah, like what are folks noticing here? Like, for instance, Tim says, in fact, actually, Tim even says, should we read it together?
Is that what Tim said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to read it together.
Yeah.
It's pretty long. I mean, 63 pages, but like, I think I want to see, what all is outlined here.
Yeah, do you want to start off?
Yeah, sure. So, just read like the bold ones first, I think. So,
yeah, that makes total sense. Just the big picture.
Yeah, chapter 1's talking about, PFAS in general, their laboratory-made threat to health and environment.
Chapter 2 is PFAS use in West Virginia's oil and gas wells and growing evidence of PFAS pollution.
And chapter 3 is PFAS used in West Virginia's oil and gas wells. What and where?
And chapter 4 is chemical disclosure laws shield chemical identities.
Oh, that's a big one. Chapter 5 is saying there's evidence that suggests wider PFAS use than reported in West Virginia's oil and gas wells.
And feel free to join in, Tim.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi, Tim.
Figured it'd be good to share the reading burden.
Sure, we would love.
Please.
Sure.
It's only 36 pages. No, 30.
63.
Well, we better hurry.
Yeah, I mean,
Should we just read the summary?
Yeah, we were just reading the table of contents here, trying to figure out, what the overview of it is.
Yeah, just all the subjects for each chapter listing.
Yes, I think we just said chapter 5 is talking about there's wider PFAS use than reported.
Yeah, do you want to read chapter 6 title?
What would be the sort of evidence we could get to dig into?
Yeah, we can go for the evidence. We were just looking at the big picture a little bit, just trying to think of all the chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could go see what it's saying.
We can take a look at the evidence, though. Go right into it.
It's saying 24. Yeah, I'm curious, like, what people's experiences with PFAS that are in the audience, because we can go like very much back to the beginning if we need to. This is a new topic, although I think many of you have probably heard of it.
What are these tables here?
Let's see. Okay, interesting.
That's interesting. Mass of all trade secrets chemicals. 30. Wow.
Oh, okay, that's in pounds. I thought it was like the number for a second. I was like, oh, geez. Wow.
Yeah, what are you noticing? What's everyone noticing here?
I'm noticing that EQT has one of the largest number of wells that are injected with trade secret chemicals, and they're one of the biggest operators in Pennsylvania.
Mm.
This looks like a lot of pounds of chemicals that may be unhealthy for our waters and our bodies, but we don't really talk about them or hear about them much. We hear about like cheap energy, homegrown cheap energy,
Yeah.
but not these costs.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, right? 30 million pounds with Antero Resources, right? EQT 5,800,000 pounds.
Yeah, and I think the EQT might have just bought Tug Hill. Also, I have to look into that.
I think a car would be between 2,000 and 4,000 pounds, depending on how big the vehicle is.
Yeah, that is a lot of chemicals.
And are they saying that these are what is being used? Like in, let's see, oil and gas companies that fracked using chemicals. And so maybe this was all of the weight of chemicals over that time period, maybe 10 years.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like.
So you could divide by 10 and get like the annual use. What happens to all those chemicals? Do they reuse them or treat them and turn them into something not so toxic? Or
yeah, I mean, from what I understand, like majority of them, or if not all of them, go into the fracking fluid, which is what's injected to break up the rock. And so I assume that some of them would be within the brine that comes back up. But I don't want to make too many assumptions.
yeah, we were watching a video earlier and they were talking about the collection tanks that were toxic and somebody got stuck in there or was feeling lightheaded and they had to rescue him and he got called out by his boss. Was that one of these chemicals, you think?
It could have been. I mean, the thing is, like, the fracking waste is so complicated, because it has all of this, naturally occurring stuff that comes from the rock that they're drilling into, and then there's also these chemicals that they put into the fluid to make it better at cracking up in the rock. And I don't think that they are separate things, but I could be wrong about that. It's something we should look into more.
Yeah, you explained radiation from the earth minerals from fracking as a kind of byproduct that maybe the workers are exposed to, but they didn't realize it.
Yeah, I mean, the radiation aspect is something that, we've been really focused on. And to me, that's really concerning, because of like, how dangerous it can be. And how much regulation there is if it were in a different industry, but because it's oil and gas waste, it has all these exemptions in the law. But yeah, I mean, being exposed to like organic chemicals that or like hydrogen sulfide gas and all of those things that the whistleblower from the company was talking about are dangerous too. It's just like the combination of all of those things. And yeah, I mean, who knows what exactly it was that was making them sick in that moment, but it's kind of scary that they don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's scary that there could be so many things wrong. What else should we notice and look at? This is interesting.
Yeah, so I can provide a little bit of context.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what this table is saying, but things that might not be familiar to people, CAS number is a really common thing, a way of identifying chemicals. It's like a universal number code. So, like, say you want to go buy, I don't know, like sodium hydroxide from Sigma Aldrich, which is a chemical company. You can like Google this number and it will come up, and they're like unique to each chemical. And you can also look up these things called material safety data sheets, MSDS. So, will it share my Google searches? Let me see. I think I need to share everything.
Yeah, sometimes if you're in Chrome, you can say like switch to this tab or that tab.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Because I want to just look up the CIS number, see what comes up. Because what's interesting is like for these, proprietary chemicals, which means that it's like a trade secret. They often don't tell you exactly what it is because it's a trade secret and they don't want other people to know. Okay, let me share. Yeah, so I just searched the CAS number, which was 9002. That's the first one on the table. Let's see. So Fisher Scientific is a really common chemical manufacturer.
Are you, let's see. Hold on. Sure.
Can you see it?
There we go. That's better. Okay, now we're good.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
You might want to zoom in a little more, though.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, so they're saying that this chemical is tetrafluoroethylene, which is also known as PTFE, and that is a PFAS chemical that we've been talking about, forever chemical. I've actually, used plastics that are made out of it. It's pretty commonly used as like a polymer or a plastic. And it's really resistant to like degradation by other chemicals. That's what's like, so beneficial, we would say, I guess, about these chemicals is like they last really long and they basically don't degrade from like anything else. Like you can put like what we use it for is putting concentrated acid through like this tube, and the concentrated acid doesn't really degrade at all because it's so resistant. Yeah, so what's another? I guess I can just like share what the things to look for in these sorts of safety data sheets are. So they'll have like the composition and then usually like the weight percentage. So we might see like some of these that are mixtures of chemicals. So they'll have percentages of like how much of what is in it. They always have these like first aid measures, firefighting measures. So these are used both by people that are trying to see what the health risks are, and then also if there is some sort of accident, firefighters are trained to use these to figure out like what measures they should be taking to put out the fire, because like different chemical fires have very different responses sometimes.
So let me ask a question here.
Mhm.
As we're going through this, what's the like what would we say some of the perspectives are on this? Like how would you say this fits in a larger context when we're looking at this, the safety data sheet?
Fits in a larger context. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for people to know that these exist for like every single chemical essentially that is sold. Um, and that you can look up, what they're saying the safety is. And what is so interesting about this is they're saying that there are no hazards identified. Um, and it's not considered hazardous.
Yeah, that's
But
strange, isn't it?
yeah, it's just it really depends on like the form of things and stuff. And often these safety data sheets, like it's based on available information too. And so if studies on like the carcinogenic effects, like whether it causes cancer or whether it will cause damage to like uh, to a fetus or something like that. Like there are what's called teratogens. So there's all these different hazard symbols that
Keratogens
yeah, teratogens.
or teratogens?
Teratogens. I think that's how you spell it. Yeah, so it's any agent that causes an abnormality following fetal exposure during pregnancy, which some PFAS have been shown to do. They, were noticing at, I believe it was either DuPont or 3M, the factories where they were producing some of these forever chemicals, that pregnant women who worked in the factories were having children that were born with, like different abnormalities and things. And like you were saying earlier, it's often we put things into the world and we see what happens. And the workers are usually the people that are first, like the first canaries in the coal mines.
Yeah, so
Understanding these things. Yeah.
Did y'all see?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Dark Waters, the movie that Mark Ruffalo acted in and researched. We should watch the trailer because it's pretty intense, and it illustrates exactly what you're talking about with deformed cattle on farmers' properties downstream from, I think it was the DuPont factory.
Yeah,
I think it was West Virginia or Pennsylvania, maybe.
No, it's in West Virginia.
Yeah.
That case, at least.
Yeah.
It's actually Parkersburg, where Riley's from.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's a caller on the C-SPAN show also that was from Marietta, Ohio, and he was talking about his experience with his pet mice when he was growing up, when they drank the water that was in the Ohio River. I believe it was Ohio River.
Yeah.
Yeah, should we take a look at maybe both of those? Maybe the clip from the movie and also the clip from C-SPAN?
Yeah.
Take a look at that.
Yeah, I remember the movie going into the behind the scenes that the companies were, the stories that they were telling themselves to justify, their faith in plastics.
Yeah. Yeah, the scary thing is, like, there's so many different uses for this stuff, like, there's firefighting foams, they're in makeup, we were talking about, like, outdoors equipment, because, like, they do have so many great properties in terms of, like, water resistance and we were saying chemical resistance and all of these things, but let's watch the trailer. It's a really good movie, I've seen it too.
Let me know if you can hear this okay. It'll be in a second.
I think we picked the perfect place to live. Just perfect. We have so much unpacking to do.
You're gonna love it up here. We're 2 blocks from the school, which is one of the best in the city. And wait, sweetie, don't run, don't run.
What if this is the right one?
Wait. Oh, oops. Okay, wait. Hold on.
It's Dark Waters with an S.
Darn it. Okay.
I was like, this does not look familiar.
Yeah, I was like, wait, okay. This is Dark Waters.
Was it? Yeah, I think it's not 2005. There you go. It's 2000.
Okay, there's a film. Okay, wait. Okay.
Mark
Here we go. Okay. All right. All is right with the world. Now if we could just find the trailer.
It's all good, BA. I was saying that, and I was like, is that the right actors? And I was like, this seems very horror movie like.
Yeah, I was like, okay, where is this going? Let's see. There we go. Okay.
That's right. There's Mark Ruffalo.
Nothing. You knew. Still, you did nothing.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains.
Hi, Grammars.
What are you doing here?
Your grandma tells me her grandson's some fancy environment lawyer down in Cincinnati.
I am a corporate defense attorney.
So?
I defend chemical companies.
Well, now you can defend me.
How many did you lose?
190.
190 cows.
You tell me nothing's wrong here.
It's a small matter for a family friend. Help a guy who needs it.
The farmer or you? That's chemicals, I'm telling you.
I'm seeing documents I don't understand.
They're hiding something.
That chemical. What if you drank it?
Drink it.
It's like saying, what if I swallowed a tire? What if whatever's killing those cows is in the drinking water?
That's DuPont. Better living through chemistry. It's our DNA.
You need to tell me what in the hell's going on.
DuPont is knowingly poisoning 70,000 local residents for the last 40 years. You knew, still you did nothing.
You want to flush your career down the toilet for some cowhand?
You want to take everything that you know and turn it against an iconic American company, like an informant. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Isn't that right?
Yes. They have all the money, all the firepower, and they'll use it. I know. I was one of them. Our government is captive to DuPont. They're trying to force you to make me stop.
He was willing to risk his job, his family, for a stranger who needed his help.
The system is rigged. They want us to think it'll protect us. We protect us. We do.
The real horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Which one?
That was a nice setup.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a little bit of misdirection here.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I watched it. I got like chills again. Ugh.
But it's such a telltale sign of where we are in so many industries, right?
Yeah.
Neoliberal economics says no regulating business, stay out of the way. Let the
Yeah,
market
I got chills whenever they I don't know, they were that one scene where the guy was up speaking and he was saying, you know, better living through chemistry, because people say that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, sometimes it is the case, but like that's the objective that everyone is seeking, but like I think we lose sight of it very often. And like we were saying, you know, like there's not enough thought about like what really is innovation, and what frameworks we need to use to make sure that things are going in the right direction. Like I feel the same way about, you know, like Oppenheimer and stuff too. It's like, you know, to what extent like is there improvement in science? Like I think there's too much of this thought of like, oh, it's not the technology, it's how people use it. But like there are certain technologies that should not exist. You know.
And there's certain technologies that are only marginally useful. And so they're not necessarily significantly useful. And there's a lot of things that also are really expensive that only marginally improve things, or sometimes don't even do that.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of society would we live in if we were just focused on flow, economies of flow?
Yeah, I mean, imagine like if all of the money that we spent on improving tech and, you know, developing nuclear weapons, developing chemical warfare agents, like what if that was spent on, you know, solving poverty, solving all of these issues that immediately affect people? Like I think what bothers me is, yeah, like this pushing towards the horizon, like we have to compete and we have to keep up with other countries. But like there's just this loss of, I don't know, like care about the material realities of the poor and like people that are experiencing hardship day to day and stuff. Like who cares if we can go to the moon if like we can't feed children, you know?
Yeah.
And how much technology comes from like the intent of creating weapons is shocking. Like how many pesticides have come from chemical warfare agents, like how many, like I think that even PFAS, like I think that they came from weapons.
Yeah. So do we want to explore this question of what are the origins of PFAS and the relationships between the military industrial complex? We want to enter some more evidence in the record. I know we had said, like, we looked at Frac Tracker before a little bit. And like, do we want to look more at Frac Tracker? We also have that C-SPAN call that we were talking about too.
Let's go to the C-SPAN call.
Okay.
And are y'all familiar with Environmental Working Group?
Yeah, I'm familiar with them. You know, I've heard bad things about them from chemists, and I don't know why that is. Like you do have to be careful with these things because you don't want to, you know, cause too much alarm necessarily whenever there isn't evidence, or like allow companies that like try to profit off of people's fear. But because the system is so broken and we have absolutely no like precautionary principles really in the system that's inherent. I mean, not absolutely none, but definitely not enough. Like people don't trust the system either. Yeah, I don't want to like lead people in the wrong direction, but like I have heard things about environmental working group like not being credible or not being considered credible by the scientific community, but doesn't mean that it's not necessarily.
Interesting. I've heard them speak at conferences before, like building construction conferences about green building, trying to get toxic materials out of construction industry, and they were helpful in categorizing them all for us.
Yeah, they're definitely helpful. Yeah, I'm just saying like what I've heard. I'm not saying I believe it to be true necessarily. It's complicated, but yeah, I think that there is this trend of scientists underestimating risk and regular people overestimating risk because they're scared. But it really depends on the situation.
I'll see if I can find one of their presentations from the conference. They had some nice sort of framing of the PFAS debate, and it's just really helpful to see like what categories they show up in. They're sort of ubiquitous in our lives.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too and explore that together. Let's take a look at this video here real quick, shall we?
Chester, Craigsville, West Virginia. Good morning.
Good morning.
Go right ahead.
I have a comment about lead.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm 88 years old. Now, when I was raised in the Allegheny Mountains of West Virginia. When I was a young man, young kid, my father, 90% of our meat was from wild game. My father shot with a shotgun, and like deer and squirrels and pheasants and stuff. They were lead bullets they were using. Now I blame lead on I had a lot of inability to do math, and I had a lot of problems when I was young. I blame that on the lead in our meat that we ate. Now, I don't know what we could do about that today, but that was one of the problems. Probably is still going today with a lot of wild meat being shot by lead, and it's contaminated the food. And I thank you.
What do you think? This is a great point, because there is something you can do today if you are a hunter, and you can use copper-plated bullets instead of lead bullets, and lead is very commonly still used. So, venison is a very good source of meat. It's a very sustainable source of meat, and many people in the United States eat it. And so I appreciate this caller's comment, because this is one of those ways that we are still vulnerable to lead getting into our bodies, and we have to think about every single source. So thank you for that comment.
Lewis.
What are you both noticing here?
I think it's like just a profound story. Like I love hearing these stories of different people, like him being 88 years old and still, like having this like wound of not like doing well in math and not knowing like if it's his fault or what it is, and then like realizing later. I feel like it happens often in these situations that you realize later that you were exposed to something. And like the you know, like healing around the harm and like the acceptance of accountability, like this like process doesn't really happen for a lot of people, because like they're told that, you know, oh, it wasn't that, or like, you know, how do you know that that's what caused it? But like I feel like there's just this lack of like of healing that's able to happen because nobody is like seen as the perpetrator, you know.
It's interesting that you say that because I think of like a lot of things like when I was younger, like and I think of also like smoking at you know, at the famous meeting that the tobacco industry had at what was it, that famous hotel in New York. Trying to think of what it is. But they had that famous thing where they knew that they were poisoning people and they were very clear about it, but they were going to sell it to people differently. And I feel like very often we come back to these places where we have these things that don't work as they're expected to work, and the people have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, in the case of carcinogen effects of smoking, they knew it caused cancer, but they initiated a disinformation campaign that deceived the public and continued to sell, even though they knew.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know for myself as a kid, when I'd have somebody tell me a different point of view than the one I had, even if I already had the correct human rights view, somebody could fool me just by asking me to be more considerate about things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's happened a number of times to me, and so I think about that a lot. Like you know, like, oh no, it's not that this is going to kill you. You just have to have a more open mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I am interested in like not necessarily the people knowing that things are harmful and covering it up, but this like we've been talking about systematic like underestimation of harm and knowing that, you know, the effects are just below the surface enough that like they'll be able to escape accountability and, you know, like the harm isn't obvious and you can't prove it and it would be way too difficult to prove, so we can't face legal action. And, you know, like these people are going to die anyways because they smoke and they don't eat well, like all of these just, you know, assumptions about being able to get away with things.
Yeah, how does the system reinforce its own assumptions? What are some ways in which the system reinforces the kinds of things that it's trying to get people to buy into?
Yeah, well, like, you know, we've heard with fracking here that when people will talk to some of the legislators or talk to people in the EPA, they'll be like, oh, we don't have anybody that's saying that they're experiencing these health effects that you're talking about. But it's like, if you're not listening to them, then how are you going to know? And like, if people don't know what could be causing it, and if you keep gaslighting people and saying, oh no, that's not what's causing it, and if you're saying like scientifically we can't determine that this is a cancer cluster or not, like there's all of these barriers in the way that are preventing these stories from coming out. And so how do we really know that there aren't people coming forward like, or aren't people that have experienced harm? Like, why are we using that as evidence?
Well, I have a little experience in fire retardant chemicals in furniture that we had, and we started looking at it when we had children because we had heard that the dust that comes out of the fabrics and the seat cushions in particular create dust that has those flame retardant chemicals, and those are what's carcinogenic. And so we did a little research and found that in California, they did away with fire treatment chemicals, which were based on a 70s rule that we needed to protect people with flame retardant chemicals. It's like one technology to fix a problem creates another problem. And only California had lifted that requirement and had a market selling fire treatment free seat cushions and lines of sofas that you could buy. And so we ended up getting rid of our sofas. And in the advertisement, we said, free if you want it, but be warning, but like with a warning. It's got, the chemical, I forget what it was, but basically fire retardants. And the first person who called about it said, that's fine, we'll be right there to get it. So they didn't care. So it's like this public perception that's totally missing. And like that could be reinforcing. Like the representatives are not hearing from their constituents that it's an issue, so they're not lifting a finger. And quite the opposite, they're getting lots of money from lobbyists that represent the manufacturers who say regulation is not a good idea, or changing what we've got is not a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, there is, the business component of it also. Like from like the industry perspective, which I have a little bit of, like, it is really difficult whenever regulations come out for the company, and like, research takes a lot of workers, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of time. And if your whole market is based on something and then it comes out that, oh, this thing is bad, like it is really disruptive to a business. And so like I have some sympathy for, like not the status quo, but like, what I'm saying, like some sympathy for the fact that it's difficult to make these changes. And like whenever you're part of this system, like there's a variety of harm that can be caused. And like I think it's often the economic harm that's prioritized above like the health impacts that we may not necessarily know. Yeah.
I've heard
Yeah,
that. Okay.
No, I'm hearing you contrast the economic impacts to the physical harm impacts that are so much harder to notice. And I want to just draw attention to the fact that it's already 10 after the hour. And do we want to start thinking about how we want to wrap up our puzzles for the night? Are there any puzzles we want to think about, or any theories that we're thinking of right now, or any generalizations we want to make, or anything we notice?
Just based on what Mackenzie just said, it seems like the people who have the answers are stuck between a rock and a hard place, because they've invested all this research to come up with this product, only to realize that it's got some health risks. And so what do? It's like it's a tough problem.
Yeah, I think a lot of scientists rationalize it in the way that, like, no matter what they make, there's going to be some sort of downside typically. And it seems like often whenever we have these like miracle chemicals, like there is a downside that is unforeseen, like like with DDT being like a great pesticide, or PFAS being great at resisting chemicals in water and not degrading. Like it's just too much of this like singular minded focus on one aspect of its properties and not like a holistic understanding of what it will do in the world. And that's why like I really want to change chemical education so that like green chemistry principles are part of the education, toxicology is understood, and it's not like we understand the chemical industry as existing within the world as a whole, like ecologically and like socially too, like what the ethical considerations are of developing technology. And yeah, like I think that there's kind of this perception that that's unscientific, but I very much disagree.
Totally.
Yeah, what relationship does the relevance of science, like how does that relate to what's relevant?
Yeah.
Like if we're thinking about yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in green chemistry is becoming more popular, but like my concern is that it's just being used like to get grant money and to like go towards this new like fad or whatever in a lot of cases. And like I don't see how things are systematically changing. Like for example, there's lots of research into electric vehicle batteries, and lithium ion batteries have issues with overheating and causing fires. And so like there are people working on adhesives in the battery cells that are fire retardants, fire resistant. And like you've just been saying, Tim, there are lots of chemicals that are fire retardants that have carcinogenic, tend to be carcinogenic or like endocrine disrupting. And it's like, okay, we're trying to solve this problem of fires. We're trying to use electric vehicles. We're like, this is a sustainability thing. We're trying to improve the weight of the batteries to make them more efficient, and this will decrease emissions so much. But there's like this lack of holistic understanding about like, okay, we're gonna be using more like plastic resins. We're going to be using things that might be fluorinated, that might have this supply chain that includes PFAS, that might pollute water and cause harm to the communities where the plants are at. Like there's just a lack of understanding about like what all goes into it. And it's, yeah, I don't know. It's complex, but like it needs to be taken into consideration.
Not to mention when these chemicals do get unleashed into the environment, it's hard to pick up, hard to clean up. It's just, everywhere. And yet we don't have the willpower to just stop it at the source and say, sorry people, no more plastic bags or no more shortcuts. These are just cheap shortcuts to alternatives like metal and glass for a overpopulated planet.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like where the ethics and like the social part of it comes into play. Like you put these things in the world and then it changes the world dramatically, and it changes how we interact with each other and like how we go about our lives. And then people have to adapt to taking it away too. So it's like, yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but because like for plastic bags, for example, you know, like there's a lot of cases where like the convenience is helpful for older people or people with disabilities, and like there's all of these considerations about like changing social systems too once we get rid of technology that has benefits but also has drawbacks. So yeah, I think you can't just like take things away and then expect the world to be the same.
There's a building label called it's a red list, and you can build your whole building with red list free chemicals from the finishes to the structure, everything in between. It's really helpful, but it just takes an army of people and industry on the manufacturer side and the user side, specification side, to basically bird dog the ingredients to everything,
Mhm.
from paint finishes to furniture parts and pieces, and going through every line item in their list of materials and saying, what would it take to get this one out, because that one is on the red list. And it's people are doing it one project at a time, but it's painful, because people have already made their choices on how to build something, and now you're telling them that it's not good for reasons that they had no idea.
Mhm.
We're in a big mess. I don't even think our wastewater treatment facilities measure PFAS. So if you don't have like a Brita filter, the ubiquitous Brita water filter, I was just looking it up, and it seems to only clear out 2/3 of PFAS from your drinking water.
Yeah, I mean, she was talking on C-SPAN about how difficult it is to clean up. I have to look up like how many there are, but PFAS includes like pretty much every single combination of carbon that you can put together with fluorines on them. So like there are like thousands and thousands of chemicals. So regulating is very difficult, and then finding like there isn't going to be a standard way of treating them necessarily. So like it's just like just having an appreciation for how difficult it is. Like it's unfortunate that the momentum is like so far into this like reckless territory that like any attempt to try to stop things like is like seems like pitiful almost, but like you have to keep trying. It's hard.
Yeah, to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. Right, like we can wrestle against it can feel like a whole ocean that we're fighting against at times. It's so large that it tempts us to feel like we're annihilating ourselves in the process.
Yeah, and then like with PFAS too, like they realize that things are bad, and then they're like, okay, let's change it and find an alternative. And so like there's like these new next generation of compounds, and then some of them are like proprietary, so we don't even know what they are. And you can't measure something if you don't know what it is, and if you don't have a standard for it. So like I think that people don't understand how complicated it can be, and like how often these alternatives are very similar structurally and will likely do the same things, but then it's like, okay, now we have to continue to regulate them, and like it's going to take another, I don't know, 20 years to write the legislation and make sure it gets passed, and then let the industry have its time to recuperate because of it. So it's like this system where we say, okay, we found out this thing's bad, now we're gonna take care of it. Like it's not working clearly. So how do we change the system instead of just trying to put band-aids on?
It's so scary. It's like we can't afford to heal ourselves.
Yeah, it's such a mess. What I'm hearing you say is that it feels overwhelming. It feels like it's the kind of thing that keeps dodging you and avoiding you, and like it's bigger than all of us, and yet we keep going with it for the sake of love, and we continue to learn more about this. And I think there's a lot that we can learn about this. I think this is a subject that we're going to want to keep exploring and organizing our learning about. Do we want to summarize anything anymore as we're getting ready to end? Are there any other thoughts about this?
I think it might be helpful to sort things out into categories, like for future searches. Like if we started with fracking, maybe I heard chemicals in like manufacture of different regimes of materials. I think people have at least classified them now, and we can use that, I think, in future human rights literacy. I think we could maybe sort of
categories,
gauge which ones are most harmful or something.
Categories of materials. What else? What else should we be putting in the chat?
Something that ties to human rights, like what are the most, like what are the dirty dozen, so to speak.
Yeah.
Most harmful that we could prioritize.
Well, PFAS in fracking. That was something that we were told to. We didn't even look at my clip from C-SPAN necessarily. We'll have to do that next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got like communities who are sacrifice zones to fracking industry,
mm-hmm.
And then we've got the sort of general ubiquitous onslaught or front against the typical consumer who just wants to buy some strawberries.
Yeah.
or just needs some waterproof jacket or shoe, but
mm-hmm.
Turns out it's coated with Teflon, and now those air dust particles are being breathed in, or it's in the water. It's in the whole country's water supply. And so if we can categorize it, then maybe we can say, here's ways to protect yourself, like not buy that kind of furniture or buy this kind of water filter.
Well, that's an interesting point, because we're going to have different demands from people, and so we can figure out what the appropriate response is to everything using what we're already working on with Vanguard Method. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, people talk a lot about consumers' choices, and I think that that's important. And I think you already know where I'm going with this, but like it should not be on the consumer necessarily to, in my opinion, to like figure all these things out, because like oftentimes there isn't even like a choice that is completely safe. And then like are consumers the people that are best poised to understand these issues? I mean, like the average person that doesn't understand chemistry, like are they the best person to understand these issues? And I think companies are starting to take responsibility for these things in some cases. But yeah, what were they saying at the end of the Dark Waters trailer? Like, we can't trust them to keep us safe. Like, we have to keep ourselves safe. And I think that's true to a degree, but like, I'm not sure that making different choices, like we can't buy our way out of this crisis. Like we have to continue what we're doing, direct action and education, and confronting like why these things have been allowed to continue.
So I'm hearing looking beyond what people have been avoiding.
Mm-hmm.
And looking beyond the nice shiny exterior, right? The the non-stick exterior.
Yeah.
But I think it's sticking now, right? Things have changed.
Definitely sticking.
Well, this has been such a lovely night tonight. Learning with both of you here, and our inaugural night on PFAS and lead. So thank you so much, both of you.
It's always a good conversation. We didn't necessarily do what we intended to do, but that's okay.
It's okay.
Thank you for having me. Letting me jump on the show at the last minute.
Yeah, really glad you came on. Sorry, go ahead, Mackenzie.
So, if I find anything on PFAS, do we put it on like, what is it called, Discord, or I'll just send it to you?
So I think what we'll start doing now. So for folks that you may not know it yet, but there's a source list here. I'm going to just share a link to it actually, and you can at least comment on it. And so this is a link to it in the chat. And what this is a list of sources. And so you can put sources in there and links. We're going to try to put the next date of the next time we're going to do another stream like this. But in the meantime, you can put stuff in there. And we look forward to exploring these sources with you more and more, and really looking at all these different aspects of this so that we can address them. What for you, Mackenzie, was profound in exploring this subject tonight? And you, Tim, too.
I think just like everybody bringing their own, lived experiences with this issue and like what's important. I'd be interested to have collaboration sources. I have my own agenda for what I want to eventually get to, but I don't want to be the only person that on this. I want people to be excited about it because I know that it can be overwhelming, boring. There's lots of different things that learning about this stuff can be. So I want people to be excited about it and bring what they're passionate about and what they're concerned about. And we can talk about it together.
That's awesome. Yeah, I grew up around water, and I feel like a fish out of water here in Raleigh, 2 hours from the beach. I swim all the time, and if I wasn't into buildings, I'd probably be doing something with water. It's such a fundamental element in our lives, and I enjoy it so much. I think I would be some kind of like water restorer person. I know people who do that. They do stream restoration, and you can hire them to clean your water off your parking lot and stuff. They design gardens for that. Or you can even find people who can use plants to clean water right out of your bathroom, all of your black and gray water from your house. So it's a big deal. And, I love this topic, and hopefully we can look at some of those natural solutions, because I think the waste from one stream is food for microorganisms who live in the soil, the roots of the plants. So, yeah, maybe there's PFAS eating microorganisms will be the solution for the future. We'll get there.
It's interesting, like there are so many things that have had longer to evolve than us, and like there's so much wisdom within the natural world that we need to understand better. Maybe we don't have to understand necessarily, but respect at least.
Yeah,
Well,
I love that.
we're learning to respect it here tonight and understand. And I'm excited to explore more of this with you both in the coming weeks and months and to make a real difference on these issues. I think we can. So thank you so much.
I'm excited too.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
So everyone, have a beautiful night tonight. Enjoy yourselves.
You too.
Travel home safely if you have to do any travel, or if you're already home, enjoy. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. And we'll be seeing you very soon. Tomorrow, there'll be a code lab, or code stream, excuse me, at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then on Thursday, there's going to be a code lab again. So, hoping to see you all. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night, everyone.